Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I want to go through chapters 10 and 11 of the book of Revelation. This is part of kind of like an unofficial series that I'm doing. You don't have to have watched the other ones to understand this one. I just want to go through with a fine-tooth comb basically and pick out all the details that I can, look at what it says in the Institute manual for any additional insights and stuff like that. And so far, it's been a pretty good exercise. And I think I'm going to do it for all of the Book of Revelation. Probably do Isaiah, probably Jeremiah, and others. So anyway, this is what we're going to do right now. Chapter 10, John seals up many things relative to the last days. He is commissioned to participate in the restoration of all things. Really quick, here's the update on the Book of Mormon Sharing Challenge. It actually hasn't changed since the last video that I did, just because I'm doing this one like right after. But if you missed that video, this is where we're at. 4,756 shares of the Book of Mormon. That needs to be updated. 419 people that are part of this challenge now. It keeps going up day by day. So thank you for, taking up the challenge, and I'd invite more, because there's thousands of you more, to do it. Let me know when you've shared a Book of Mormon. Try and get to 10. That's the goal. And we'll just keep making this thing go up and up and up. All right. So as I usually do, first I read the chapter, then we look at what it says in the Institute manual. So, and I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head. And his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth, and cried with a loud voice, as when a lion roareth. And when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and write them not. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, and sware by him that liveth for ever and ever, who created heaven, and things that therein are, and the earth, and the things that therein are, and the sea, and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. And the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again, and said, Go and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And I went unto the angel, and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. All right, so what in the world did we just read? Okay, Revelation 10, verses 1 through 2 and 9 through 10, the little book. Quote unquote mighty angel delivered quote unquote a little book to John, and he quote unquote ate it up, symbolizing his mission to help gather the tribes of Israel as part of the restoration. Eating the book may suggest that John accepted his mission. It became a part of his being. That the book was sweet as honey in John's mouth, but bitter in his belly, may suggest that his mission would involve maybe many sweet and joyous experiences, but also rejection and painful experiences. Ezekiel also ate or internalized a book. See Ezekiel chapter 2 verses, well, it shows the scriptures right there. According to John Whitmer's account of a conference of the church in June 1831, quote, the Spirit of the Lord fell upon Joseph in an unusual manner, and he prophesied that John the Revelator was then among the 10 tribes of Israel who had been led away by Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, to prepare them for their return from their long dispersion to again possess the land of their fathers, end quote. I don't want to go off on the whole controversy again, but this can be taken two ways. One way is the main group idea that there's a hidden group somewhere of any size. It doesn't matter the size. There's a hidden group somewhere of the 10 lost tribes that have to come back before the second coming. And I do not accept that view based on my own research. And I'm not going to go off on an entire thing. But one thing that I would like to point out really quick is two of my playlists. Come here, close out of that. So the first one, what the heck? Tribes. Okay. So I have a playlist about the 10 lost tribes of Israel. This explains why I don't think that there's a hidden group that still has to come forth. I'm of the interpretation that the 10 lost tribes are around scattered throughout the whole world. That's one group, but the main portion of them went up into Europe, and it's as simple as that. And I have reasons why I believe that. It's all right here. I have 51 videos talking about why I believe that. So it wasn't just like something I just thought up in the moment. But also, I want to point out my playlist about the three Nephites. Control F, Nephites. Where is it? The three Nephites in John. So I would encourage you to check some of these videos out if you haven't already. And I've actually started a tracker to kind of keep track of like the different stories, the way that the three Nephites are described, just all these like different little details. It's been a while since I've done one of those videos. It looks like it's been 4 months. But what's interesting about this, okay, is that it seems that the three Nephites, and of course by extension John the Revelator, it's not like they're just like physically on the earth all the time doing stuff. They like have comings and goings. Sometimes they literally appear. Sometimes they appear in dreams, according to these different accounts that we have. And so when you think about like history and you think about everything that's happened in Europe, you have to wonder what John may have been doing in that part of the world to help prepare uh, scattered Israel to, um, gather to Zion, right? And how he's probably still operating and doing his work. Um, I would point out this video right here in particular, Times of the Gentiles, Dreams, Messianic Jews, John and the three Nephites, because in this one we talk about how there's been a lot of people having dreams, okay, from uh, what seems to be some specific entities that tell them about Christ. There's been a lot happening among the Muslims as well, because here's this one right here that you can check out: 6 important events before second coming, and many Muslims are having dreams and visions of Christ. So I think there's a lot going on. I think this Jewish messianic movement is part of it, and I wouldn't be surprised if John the Revelator is helping that along. Just a quick recap. If we go to my second coming timeline, let's go to 100%. You'll notice in column M, I have that for the Messianic Jewish movement. And if you go all the way back, where do you end up? So there's a change where, geez, I have to like scroll even faster. Where in the 60s, it kind of changed names. What it was before was the Hebrew Christian movement, but in the 60s, I guess they kind of like rebranded, so to speak. But it's essentially still the same thing. And the Hebrew Christian movement began, and I don't mean to be a broken record, but I think the dates are incredibly interesting. So the place where it's credited as having began, it was in 1809. It was the London Society for Promoting Christianity Among the Jews. And this was 11 years before the first vision. And then 4 years later, you have the first identifiable congregation made up exclusively of Jews. So a Christian congregation, but they are all Jewish converts. Okay, converts from Judaism. It was called Beni Abraham, established in the United Kingdom. And we've talked a lot about the UK. We've talked a lot about British Israelism. This is where most of the first members of the church came from. Okay, either they were already in America, but they descended from the United Kingdom, or the early missionaries of the church had great success in the British Isles, and many of them immigrated to the United States, into wherever the gathering point was at that time. So the fact that it was in the UK, and then the fact that this particular event happened 7 before the first vision, I think there's a parallel thing going on here. It'd be interesting to see if we could get everybody's accounts of how they felt about converting from Judaism to Christianity. Were there dreams? Were there personages that appeared? All that we really have are these accounts of the three Nephites. We have the Nephites apparently and probably appearing to the Iroquois people. There's a guy named the Seneca Prophet. He has a very interesting story. But they have appeared not only to Native Americans, but also to um, Americans here in the United States and other places. Columbus came across them, or at least his crew did. There's a story here about, I think this was in Augusta, Georgia, the Pillar of Prophecy. So there's a lot of things going on that I don't think that we see. We do have some record of it. But anyway, when we're talking about John the Revelator and him gathering the 10 tribes, I think that it's been happening in that kind of way. And who knows what kind of hand he may have had in bringing Judah and Benjamin and Levi, the Jews, back to Jerusalem. All right, Revelation 10, verses 3 through 4, the seven thunders. Elder Bruce R. McConkie described what the seven thunders mentioned in Revelation 10, 3 through 4 might represent. Quote, the seven thunders which here utter their voices are the seven angels reciting in some detail that which is to be in each of the 1,000-year periods of the earth's temporal continuance. So he believes, and he says pretty confidently that has to do with the seven angels. It has to do with the seven seals. Are the seven angels reciting in some detail that which is to be in each of the 1,000-year periods. Okay. Revelation. Okay, now we're at Revelation 11, 42 months. Okay. So let's go ahead and read Revelation 11. In the last days, 2 prophets will be slain in Jerusalem. After 3.5 days, they'll be resurrected. Christ will reign over all the earth. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. I've always taken this to kind of mean you're basically measuring, you're seeing who is of the church, who is in the covenant, who has gone to the temple, and gone down the covenant path. But the court which is without the temple, leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth, and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. And by the way, I don't think that's literal, that they're going to be spitting fire out of their mouth, but I think that's symbolic of essentially the judgments that they bring down upon the people and the truth that they're speaking. Okay, and these have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And you have to wonder if some of that's going on right now. I think some people are under the impression that we're going to absolutely know when the 2 witnesses are prophesying, that it's going to be on the news, or it's just going to be very obvious. And I'm not so sure. I wouldn't be surprised if this prophecy is playing out right now. Um, there was an interesting article. Let me find it. Go to my channel. Two witnesses. This is something that Victor L. Ludlow said. Let me pull this up, and I can go to the actual article. This is in Deseret News. Mideast prophecies wow BYU audience. Now, I don't know. I don't know that he's right about this, but look at what he says. Okay. Okay, here it is. When will two prophets come to the Holy Land? It's already happening. It's a common reality to people in the Middle East, Ludlow said. Ludlow tells students at BYU Jerusalem they are in the right place if they want to meet a general authority. The top place to meet one of the brethren is church headquarters. The second is in Provo, specifically the Missionary Training Center. The third is the Holy Land. Ludlow says, quote, there is something to be felt there. They see them all the time, end quote. Before the Battle of Armageddon can take place, Ludlow said a change in the social and economic environment needs to take place. And that could be taking place right now. If you've been watching my videos I've done recently about what's going on with the government, what's going on with Ramadan this year, what's going on with so many different things. In fact, I'll include this in the description below. This is a newer article. Just came out today. Experts anticipate increased terrorism during Ramadan, focused on Jerusalem. And there's just so many quotes here about how Hamas intends to have a third intifada. And there's a bunch of quotes. And it just, I think the next few weeks, the next couple months are going to be maybe bigger than they were the last couple years. Let's just say it that way. So, Ludlow's not a general authority. I can't remember what he is. I think he's just like a scholar or a professor. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was right. Do you know why? It's because if you were able to, I've said this like a million times on the channel, if you knew that the two witnesses, the two olive trees, the two candlesticks, whatever you want to call them, if you knew that they were in operation, then you would just be like, oh, okay, I'll just put it down on my calendar, and then you would know when the second coming is going to happen. And that doesn't make any sense. And furthermore, a lot of these like bigger things, or what we picture in our minds to be bigger, I think that if they were as big as we imagine them, it would rob a lot of people of their faith. A lot of people would not be caught unprepared, just because they're so big and so obvious. So I really feel like that needs to be taken into account. And I really feel like the Lord likes to work in natural ways, not making them any less miraculous, just he likes to do them in natural ways. Okay, so anyway, continuing. So they can smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And, we just had the pandemic. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And we already covered that a few videos back that are part of this series. It's Satan. It's the power of Satan. It's his influence that he has during this period of time. And their dead body shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their bodies to be put in graves. And they shall dwell upon the earth. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. Again, I don't expect to actually see this. What I expect to see is like after the fact, once we're in the millennium, seeing, a news article or something come up after people study the aftermath. being like, oh, look, this prime minister gave this prime minister a secret gift, and it was, now we have it documented. I don't think that there's going to be just like all this like gift giving, and it's going to be just so obvious. Um, anyway, that's just my opinion. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood up upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And in the same hour was there a great earthquake. And the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. And the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. Now, I presume that this is taking place as the city is being invaded. I don't know, as the city is under siege, Jerusalem. I'm kind of unclear about that. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And the seventh angel sounded, and there was great voices in heaven, saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So, again, I'm careful when I try and put this in like any sort of order, but it seems like at that time, when they ascend into heaven, that's when Christ takes control of the world. Again, it's just okay. The 4 and 20 elders which sat before God on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped God, saying, We give thee thanks, O Lord God Almighty, which art and wast and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and they were wrath, and thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Okay, let's see what it says in the in the manual. Revelation 11, 2 through 3, and 9 through 11, 42 months. Here's a depiction of the second temple. The angel told John that Jerusalem would be trodden, quote unquote, underfoot 42 months. 42 months is the equivalent of 3.5 years. Likewise, the two witnesses mentioned in verse 3 would prophesy and testify of Jesus Christ for 1,260 days, or approximately 3.5 years. They would be slain, and their bodies would lie in the street for 3.5 days. In the scriptures, particularly in Revelation, the number 3.5 often describes a limited period of tribulation during which evil forces are allowed to do their work. You see that? So a lot of people, and this is like I feel like this is a common mistake. They think that what they're being given is specific time frames with which they can calculate when the second coming is going to happen, or just in general how long things are supposed to take place. I have another playlist called Symbolism, and I did a pretty in-depth video about 3.5, the number 3.5. So I would encourage you to check out this video because there's quite a bit to that. And so when you think of these different numbers, 42 months, 1,260 days, 1,290 days, 1,335 days, and on and on and on. I don't think that these are literal numbers that you're supposed to like put down on a chart to try and figure out how long things are supposed to take place. All right. And I have a lot of reason to believe that. Not just what the manual says, but what I studied here in this video. Okay. When it comes to Jews and numbers, okay, even going all the way back to the time of Christ, They do numbers differently than we do. Numbers are a way of communicating abstract thoughts. There's symbolism behind numbers. There's a heavy emphasis on letters in numbers called gematria, which they use that as a way of communicating ideas. Where for example, in English, you would assign the letter A to the number 1, the letter B to the number 2, the letter C to the number 3, and da 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 da. And then they'll look at a word and add up the numerical value, and that means something to them, right? And I don't know that we'll ever see gematria in our church, but who knows? Maybe that's something that'll be restored in the millennium, and maybe they're actually onto something. But whatever the case, you have to understand when you're reading from a Jewish author, okay, John, the Revelator, he's not talking in the same terms that we readily understand today. Okay. Um, so anyway, and by the way, 42. I think not only is it like the same as saying 3.5 years, but 42. That's the number of months of gestation for a human child, right? For a baby. The gestation period is 42 months. So there's probably even more significance to that. The second coming, a lot of times, is equated with, or metaphorically, it's presented as a child, like childbirth, and how you know that it's close, but you can't tell exactly when it's going to happen, but you can feel the contractions and you can like observe and you know that it's getting closer and closer, but you don't really know. So I would take this to mean personally, number one, it's a limited period of tribulation during which evil forces are allowed to do their work. And I do believe that is right now. I do believe that that is right now as we speak. Furthermore, we don't know exactly how long it's going to go for because of the 42. You calculate in, it's like a pregnancy. And so you only know that you're getting close to the end, but you don't know exactly when, right? When we do the next video and we get into chapter 12, you have another one of these periods come up when we're talking about the woman who gave birth to the child, which is the church giving birth to the kingdom of God back in the days of Christ, and then the apostasy setting in, and God taking the church and the kingdom to like a safe place for 1,260 days. But in the Joseph Smith translation, it changes days to years, which gives you the clear understanding that the church wasn't going to be gone for just a matter of days. It was going to be years and years and years. And so that's really, I think, a key is understanding what 3.5 means. It's a limited period of tribulation during which evil forces are allowed to do their work. Specifically, what's he called again? The abyss. What is it? The bottomless pit. Let's see. The angel of the bottomless pit. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's get back to where we were. Okay, so since 3.5 is half of 7, which symbolizes perfection and completion, it may represent imperfection and apostasy. Okay. It may also suggest that God will not allow evil to go on unchecked. Evil's time is bounded and its limits are set. Revelation 11, 3 through 12, two witnesses. The events in Revelation 11 will transpire prior to the Savior's coming to the Mount of Olives to deliver the Jews from destruction. The two witnesses are, quote, two prophets that are to be raised up to the Jewish nation in the last days at the time of the restoration and to prophesy to the Jews after they are gathered and have built the city of Jerusalem in the land of their fathers, end quote. And that has already taken place. The building of the city, it's been built, it's been restored. The Jews are present there, especially after the 6-day war in 1967. So I would say that from 1967 until now, the city of Jerusalem is in this condition where it's been built. It's in the possession of the Jews. Okay, these two prophets appeared to possess the sealing power of the priesthood, uh, with which they, like prophets before them, are able to control the skies and smite the earth with plagues. Elder Bruce R. McConkie stated, quote, "No doubt they'll be members of the Council of the 12 or the First Presidency of the Church," end quote. That's from Doctrinal New Testament Commentary. Now, as far as them dying, it does seem everywhere that I look, whether it's reading Bruce R. McConkie or other places, it does seem like there will be two that actually die, that's going to be a literal happening. Who it's going to be, I don't know, but I will say this. We know that David A. Bednar is over the Middle East. And furthermore, we've looked into his name, the Bednar name, and it's a classic or a common Jewish name. And I think it's from the Czech Republic, right? Bednar, Jewish name. Yeah, it means Cooper. And there's a bunch of different sites that verify this. I'm just looking for the quickest one. This surname of Bednar was a Polish and Jewish occupational name for a cooper, a maker of tubs and barrels. The name has many variant spellings, which include Bednars, Benarski. Okay, the earliest Polish surnames were patronymic. The personal names. Okay, go to something else. Let's look and see what this one says. Skip that one. Names.org. Oh yeah, Czech. Because I think that Elder Bednar, he's of Czech ancestry. Oh, here's my video that I did about it. If you want to learn more about Elder Bednar, possibly being Jewish, watch this video. President Russell M. Nelson met with Saudi princess. Is Elder David A. Bednar Jewish? Let's look at this. Chicago Jewish News. Not there anymore. Whatever. That's okay. I have screenshots of it as I was doing the video. So anyway, I've always felt like David A. Bednar is a special person. He's over the Middle East. There's a good chance that he's of Jewish descent. And maybe one of these times that he goes to Jerusalem, maybe that'll happen. And, I don't look forward to that. Nobody does. I don't know who will be with him. It'll probably be another apostle. Maybe it'll be D. Todd Christofferson because his name is David. But yeah, you just have to wonder. He went there recently. Let's see, Elder David A. Bednar, Mideast trip. Well, I mean, not really recently. I think it was like a year ago. This was, more than a year ago. November 2021, Elder Bednar concludes Middle East ministry with visit to Bahrain. Yeah, so he went to Bahrain, but he also went to United Arab Emirates and also Jordan. He went to Amman, Jordan. I did a video about that too. So for all anybody knows, maybe he's going to be going there again sometime soon. And with the way things are going right now, maybe it's going to be his last trip there before he's resurrected. I don't mean to sound dire or anything like that, but who knows? Yeah, so that's all that there is in the Institute manual. So it's really good information. And yeah, I tend to think that the prophets going to Israel and testifying and stuff, I feel like that's been going on for a long time. Probably ever since Israel became a state, really. We know that the prophets and apostles have been involved with Israel since before it even became a nation. You remember this? Let's see. BYU dedicating the Holy Land. I think it's this one, In the Footsteps of Orson Hyde. So Orson Hyde was the first one. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Orson Hyde was the first one to dedicate the Holy Land. Okay. October 24th, 1841. And if you didn't know, there have been many other dedications since that time. So you have this one by A. Carrington, another one by Lorenzo Snow, I think this is George Albert Smith, or maybe it's, I don't know. A. Lund. Okay, you have all these. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 separate dedications. They all blessed and dedicated the land. You see this table right here. Most of them included Israel and Jews gathering right here. And then you have all these other topics, rebuild Jerusalem, you know. So you've had that, okay, before Israel became a nation. And since that time, we've had a number of uh, prophets and apostles go to the Holy Land. And they don't just go there and keep to themselves, they speak with government officials. So, for example, let's see, read. Okay, so I had to stop the recording and find what I was looking for. So, look at this right here. Okay, President Nelson, and you have Elder Holland with him. Look at the date right here, April 14th, 2018. You know what that means? It means that 3 months after he became president of the church, he made a trip to Jerusalem. I was like, first thing he goes to Jerusalem, or among the very first things that he does as president of the church, right? You have to wonder about that. You have to wonder why he would do that right off the bat, and who knows who he spoke to while he was there, him and Elder Holland. Okay, yeah, there you have President Hinckley. He went there. So there have been prophets that have probably ever since the BYU Jerusalem Center was constructed. You've probably had every prophet go there. I know that Spencer W. Kimball has been to Jerusalem because it came across like a talk that he gave. Let's see, Spencer W. Kimball, Jerusalem. Okay, what does it say here? Spencer. Let's see. President Spencer W. Kimball said of his visit there, and this was recorded back in 1979, "We accept this as the burial place of the Savior. We realize people have different ideas about these places, but this seems to be the logical place. I feel quite sure that this is the place where his body was laid. It gives me such a sacred feeling just to be here." So, yeah. And then look at this. We've already covered this before. Okay, so let's go through the pictures here. This one right here, to me, is just stunning because you have what is currently the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who right now, as we speak, is doing something that's basically tearing the country apart and raising talk of civil war. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but for all we know, we could be looking at the last prime minister of the modern nation state of Israel. And next to him, you have Joe Lieberman. He was a senator in the U.S., and you have others. And here you have two apostles. You have Jeffrey R. Holland, and you have Quentin L. Cook. You know, maybe it's going to be Jeffrey R. Holland and David A. Bednar, because it seems like Jeffrey R. Holland's been there a number of times, at least a couple times, because this is in 2016, but this is in 2018. So 16 and 18. So I don't know if like Jeffrey R. Holland is also over the Middle East, or if David A. Bednar took over, I don't know. But maybe it's going to be David A. Bednar and Jeffrey R. Holland. Who knows? Um, and who knows what they talk about and what they say? If Elder Holland was to kind of give a warning, like a kind-hearted warning to Benjamin Netanyahu, would that make news? Would they publish that and talk about it, or would they just be like, okay, whatever you say? Don't know. Let's look at some more. Let's see. So this is the mayor of Jerusalem, Mayor Nir Barkat. Okay. More, important people. This guy, he's been a really good friend to the church. What was his name again? He was the former New York Attorney General, Robert Abrams. That's right. And he's like really been very good to the church, and I think has helped the church connect with Israel more. This is them rededicating the Orson Hyde Memorial Garden, which is just right there on the Mount of Olives, not far from Gethsemane. It's kind of amazing that we have a spot there, like a memorial garden. Who's that guy? Rabbi Mir Soloveitchik addresses the audience at a concert at BYU Jerusalem Center. Okay. Gosh, I want to go there sometime. Look at that view. That is just gorgeous and beautiful. Man, you lucky ducks that have been able to go there. Where's this at? Okay. Elders Quinton Cook and L. Tom Perry of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles thank Senator Joseph Lieberman for his address at BYU on October. Okay, so that's not in Jerusalem. L. Tom Perry, if you're new to the church, he was an apostle before he passed away. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff to think about, but I think the takeaway here, hopefully, is to understand that 3.5 is not. I don't think it's meant for calculations. I don't think the Lord does things that way. That's not the purpose the reason why he put those in the scriptures. It's meant to be a time when Satan has his time and he does his stuff. It's tribulation. It's all that stuff. And then the two witnesses, I don't know. I can't say for sure, obviously, but I don't think it's going to be very, very obvious. I don't think they're going to be walking around Jerusalem in Old Testament clothing. I don't think it's going to be obvious. I don't think it's going to be on cable news or anything like that. I think that it has been happening ever since before Jerusalem, or before Israel even became a country. So, okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. Again, make sure to share the Book of Mormon. Let me know. Just have a very quick, simple, short comment or email so it's easy for me to find. And we'll keep going with this challenge. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.